Hello again, and welcome to Mind's Eye Visual Guitar. Strange. Okay. Oh, yeah. So here we are after our milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. And let's get on with a lesson. I've got a couple of issues today. I've got a fan on in the background. Hopefully that's not going to make too much unfortunate noise. I got my lighting a little better. Anyways, I'm going to need to ramble on this lesson a little bit because I made 15 sheets based on an idea that was just kind of popping out of my head. And as I explained my way through it, I feel like probably now I'm going to get to sheets where I was like, oh, what was I thinking here? But anyways, let's see how it goes. It should all fall into place because it's not too complex, but it's kind of like finding out about. I kind of approached modes from the inside instead of from the outside, meaning the outside meaning like learning the patterns, seeing how exactly the geometry plugs in, and getting in the door with my fretboard and my understanding to be able to play any mode anytime. But then sort of some noodling happens, and um, I'm finding out, then you want to like study chord tones, and you gotta do all this extra memorization to try to overlay chord tones on top of what you already know. That's doable and approachable and something you should do. But this is just if you target or if you, for me, trying to or experimenting with little tiny arpeggio shapes like I've got here on the board, got me kind of hearing things from the inside. Now we're kind of working musically from a core item, a musical little core here, and that kind of is inside of these modal ideas. So you're kind of working from the inside out if you expand these into modal ideas. And I want to kind of show you how that developed, how an interesting way you could to hear this without giving too much away. I want a little element of surprise here with the lesson. So, in theory, this little shape here should plug into the major scale in two places, but not three, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Another thing about this core idea. So, what's a core musical idea? Number one, it's taking a chunk of music theory and just kind of throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, in other words, this lesson is also kind of a teaching about, taking this music theory training that you get, and as soon as it seems boring, just say, okay, well, trash all that crap I learned. I mean, not totally, but take bits, break a chunk off, and stick it somewhere else in the mix and see what happens. Like, take this little arpeggio shape here and put it somewhere else. And when you play it against maybe a root that's just random out of nowhere. I don't know, but it didn't work. I threw it against the wall and it didn't stick, but that's a musical little core there, this little idea. You see, on its own, it's kind of neat sounding. It's got the notes kind of lead into each other. They sound like they're going somewhere, but it doesn't sound scalar. So it's got kind of like maybe a little bit of an emotional something to it, I think, which I think is cool. They ring well together, so it's musical. So against any root note, this should theoretically work in one place just fine, and probably two places since this will fit into the major scale over two different chords. So in theory, in your patterns, it will fit in two different places. So just experimenting here would start putting it in different places and seeing what happens. You go, ooh. now, suddenly, this little kind of pleasing little shape sounds very, very pleasing. I love the sound of that. Seems like that could, that's the type of thing when you hear it, I go, oh, okay, hey, keep playing that, man. Let's make a song out of that. I'll do something on a keyboard. Keep playing that. Or, someone picks up a bass and makes something that corresponds with it. So it should work, somewhere else. I think it's going to fit in. Oh, let's see. Well, there's another one, but it has its own, like a hopeful sound or something. Some kind of thing. Maybe not necessarily related to that first one. They were kind of different emotions, and well, I think that's really cool too. Like, not only do I have found something that kind of elicits some extra emotions. Well, first of all, what's even happening here? Well, I'm playing a low root to establish a tonal gravity center, and that's the low E string. So we're going to deal with E for this whole lesson. But the first thing we want to know is, of everything, we're going to expand a lot on this, but this is the core idea that's going to take us through today's lesson. So just one more metaphor about this little thing here. As you can see, we got our standard colors for our root of this little piece here, which doesn't necessarily have to be on an E note we've found. But anyways, wherever we put this root, that's the root, the brown note there with the R. So, and then before it, we've put our 7, and we've given our shape a third, a 5, a 7, and a root. That's a 7 chord. Now, basically, tones that are going to ring together are common chord tones. The major third, basically root and 5, the enclosure of almost any chord, the 2 real consonant notes there, one of the thirds. In our case today, it's a major third. So we're nice and happy. And then we're going to add in that 7th in there too, which I think adds that nice elegant sound. So that's what we're using today, and it works like a ping pong, pinball machine, I think. Where when imagine the ball's coming back toward the 2 little flappers there, and you hit the right side, it swings. I'm trying to get my hand in the camera here, so that I can get those Italian hands talking. You hit those flappers. One of them hits the ball into the machine, and it hits one of them rubber bumpers. You get the ball. It can go anywhere, right? But the ball, and what you're hoping it'll do, if it hits one of them rubber bumpers that starts sailing it off really fast, well, the points go up. It's really good. It's a good hit. And then sometimes it's like bing, 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 bing. It just keeps on bouncing against all these good notes. Well, that's an example of you playing the chord tones in a scale. You just your flap there is your guitar pick, just picking away at some random note, but your when you fret a chord tone, that's the ball hitting one of them good bumpers. And when you hit one chord tone, though, it's okay, but if you get 2, 3 in a row, that's when things are really amazing. So that's why these all sound good. There's a little bit more connection and playability between them than, a scale is playable, but just a scale smooths all the ideas out and kind of a scale's giving you everything. And so, as such, it's kind of boring, So, you're pulling some excitement out of scales by skipping notes, but then the question is like, well, what notes do you skip? Well, instead of thinking skipping notes, just think of the notes that you're going to use, which can be chord tones, are a good choice. And you can try your own. Of course, there's the a major with a flatted seventh or minor chords. And that brings me to the final point here. I know there's a lot of points, but this is important and interesting too. This arpeggio concept. Let's think about this. People will know that have watched this channel, and if you're new and you don't follow this, it doesn't matter. But people know that there's of the 7 chords in the major scale. 3 of them are major, 3 of them are minor, and we're not going to talk about the diminished chord. Save time. Doesn't matter today. It's 3 major chords, 3 minor chords. So a minor arpeggio will cover all 3 minor chords. Cool. And a major arpeggio will cover all 3. Oh, no, it won't. It'll only cover 2 of the major chords. And you say, well, why the heck is that? It's a major arpeggio. But one of the major chords is that dominant 7th chord that's really making that, giving that all music that, well, most of the music that we're hearing, that push and pull, that go to come back, especially, of course, in pop music, and the more rudimentary a tune is built, structured, the more common you're probably going to find it's going to the 5 and back. Well, anyways, that being said, that chord has a flatted 7, so this 7 won't work over for like it won't express a dominant 7th idea. This will express a major 7th idea. So only 2 chords in the scale are major 7th chords, and the 5 chord is obviously that dominant 7th chord. So this only fits in 2 places. It's kind of unique about it. That also gives that dominant 7th arpeggio that all the great things you can do with that, and see the last few lessons for where we've been exploring that exact concept, especially to get through the blues, which is utilizing those very specifically, the dominant 7th sound, dominant 7th major. Anyways, so we got the major 7 here. That so here's the difference in sound. This has got that kind of I don't know, to me that's slow dancing. Something is a little bit kinder about it. Something is a little more tender or something. I don't know, like those kind of, it elicits that kind of emotion to me. Then this is the same first 3 there, but you can just hear that wants to go somewhere. That is that flatted 7, just changing the flatted 7. So there's our arpeggio today with the major 7 that only fits supposedly in 2 places. So in theory, if I just play this E root and compare this, sorry if my mic is a little overdriven today, and compare this arpeggio to the E root, basically only 2 of them should sound good, and I shouldn't get anything else here. I'm gonna give you guys the fretboard experience here at Mindzolean Guitar. Mindzolean. The new Mindzolean scale. Alright, so moving on to sheet number 2 here. We are going to add in now, for effect, I'm going to add in, because these are just nicely usable. Here's the 6 and the 2. And basically, once we add those 2 notes in, see, it adds a little nice place to go on each end of our arpeggio. There's that gray 2. Bouncing around a bit here. Okay, so interesting choice there against the E, but anyways, that's coming up. So we got 6 and the 2. All we're missing then is the 4, because as you saw from the arpeggio, so we have 7 root 3 5, root 3 5 7. So we have everything but the 4. So if you say, well, what about watch for the plus sign there? This note down here, that's another 2, and this note here is another 6. So even if you fill those in to make this look like sort of like a pentatonic, which is coming up, keep that an idea in your head. You still get the 6 and the 2. You don't get the 4s until down here. Let's check that out. So here we've added some other ideas I might think about when I'm playing this. First of all, let's look at the two our colored notes there that we know is our blue 3 and our green 5. Now, so if this is your first time at this with Mind's Eye Visual Guitar lessons here, watching this, you may not realize that that's pretty standard for our channel to have the intervals. This is a kind of our color system here. Root for, brown for gravity, and a note that I just want to know is there. But anyways, so we've gone over that a million times, just so you know that, these colors aren't totally random on this site here. Anyways, so we've got this I might add these in. These are easy notes to add on to that shape because they're just repeats of notes that are already played. That leaves that little area in between as a choice area. Just know that we're going to be sometimes thinking of choosing between a 4 and a sharp 4 that may come up in other parts of this lesson. Let's move on. So now, like I said, we've got some of these other notes filled in, and look what that makes. Aside from the root note of our basic arpeggio shape being outside of the pentatonic scale, you've got a pentatonic scale that this chord shape fits in. So that's kind of important, why things work the way they do. So now we are at our fretboard with our cool new computerized lettering there. Did you like that? I thought that was cool. Like 70s computerized. Like you're thinking, what computer has that? I'm old. Never mind. Okay, so the E is our root now, so our yellow is indicating we are going to keep now playing a low E as our drone to create kind of like a modal effect, because everything is going to be referencing E, or I don't know, some kind of effect. Is it modal? We don't know that yet. What am I talking about? I didn't say modal. Just never mind. All right, so there's our basic shape. We've got this note to play. Let's see how. Wow. I think that sounds really musical and cool, and you can see how this passage of notes, even though there may be some distant relationship, that's, what is that? What did I just play here? I was on the a D. So this is a D arpeggio with an E low root. Wow, that's weird. But here's another thing. So we talked about those other notes with the 4s too, right? So there they are, and they sound cool over the E, okay, just like the rest of that shape. So let's play one of those 4s. Let's choose one. I'm going to choose the first one, the regular 4. Here it is. Yeah. Boy, it's got that certainly has a sound. So the other note must sound like a wrong note. Let's try it. Well, I like that. We've changed to this. The lifted 4. the regular 4. Now, I want to clarify something. This 4 I'm speaking of is in relation to my original concept here, this core arpeggio shape thing. And so from this brown root, or that brown root, that is a 4, and that's a sharp 4. From the E, however, that is just going up here. We know that's the E string, same notes here. So let's count up. We'd have our roots, flat 2, 2. So we're dealing with another, according to the E now. It's not from our chord. It's not the same third there. This is a third, and this is a the major third, and this is the fourth. No. My bad. That's a flat third, and that's a major third. So you're kind of somehow dancing in between major and minor there, which is kind of confusing because, I mean, it's a major arpeggio. Shouldn't it only work over major? Gee, what's going on? Let's explore. So we move on from there, and now I'm going to just gray the shape out. We know the chord tones of our arpeggio. We just need to know the shape, and we're going to run it up the neck here to see if any, or even how many of these shapes will sound good against the E, and then we need to know why the heck is that happening. So anyways, so we tried this one, and it sounded cool. Let's move that up a whole step here. Now that sounded like a completely different idea compared to the first one, and maybe kind of alien from it. So at first it might not sound that together, but see, that sounds okay. So now we've got another chord there that sounds good in its own right. It sounds kind of, what is it? Sounds kind of very plain, but it's congruent. It sounds very like maybe the most like normal thing you could play over that. Gee, sounds like maybe a major scale bit or something. I don't know. So what if we play one of those 4s? It's not too bad. Wow, that sounds cool. Boy, that really sounds familiar. I'm almost catching that same thing I hear when I mess around with that Lydian scale. That's that kind of that unusual climbing half step. Interesting. All right, so we found another one that looks good. We'll call that, we're going to use the root of our shape as the marker. So we'll remember that was on the E. Well, we played one, we started from the D earlier. We've done E. We'll move on from there. So, I don't know, what if we just went up a half step? That should ruin things, right? That can't sound good. Let's try it. Wow. It doesn't sound parable with the one I just played, but it's definitely got its own mood, and this one is jam-packed with emotion. I mean, it's just telling me, that's just screaming at me, something is haunting No, I'm not Roger Waters. Sorry. Um, but yeah, that suddenly jumped out at me. What is that? 19 pipe. Yeah, that's I know that song. But now the name is escaping me. Oh, set the controls for the heart of the sun. Sorry, I knew it. Anyways, sorry about that. Let's move on here. Do 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 do. That's gonna be on my mind now. The rest of the lesson is ruined now. It's not ruined. That's a great song. I saw that live. Oh man, what a cool show that was. I mean, honest to God, Eddie, to me, my most spectacular shows I've ever seen were all Roger Waters concerts. And then a couple other bands I like Rush puts on a good show. Yes, does. Anyways, okay. So here we are up on playing this G. So what does a G sound like against an E? Now I know G is kind of pretty common with E. There's a what is it? It's like the E is the minor of G. So I don't know. Is there any relationship here? Sounds like it sounds like I don't know. Now that's weird because that also sounds pretty serious, but it's got something like serious and regular about it, not haunting like the last one was. So, well, interesting there. All right, let's move on. Try another one here, and I believe that is. Well, maybe I did them all. I don't know. We're gonna go right up, back up to D again, so we cover the whole scale here. So, what if we try this one here? Now that one sounds. What's going on here, man? Why does every one of these sound good? And what key is this all in? And if this only fits in two places of the major scale, how come there's so many good ones? And how come some of them sound minor? This doesn't make any sense, does it? Let's see if it does. That sounds really cool. It sounds like one of the most congruent but musical. Interesting. All right. So make one little adjustment here on my screen. All right. So we get right down all the last sheets available. How many sheets do I got? All right. So now what we're back to here, we've kind of, okay. So if I go on from here, where did we leave off there? We were playing on the A. Okay, so let's move up a half step here. I'm gonna play on the B flat. I think we found a rotten one there. That doesn't sound good. It's all right. That doesn't sound good. It's all right. Nah. It's a little questionable. So no Aeolian or sorry, I'm giving it all away. No, not that our flat floor doesn't or regular floor doesn't work. Let's try our, because we're skipping, then our scale skips right over the E. So that's not going to really, it's going to really bring an unusual amount of tension. So I might not really pursue using that one, except for some weird circumstance. Now, what if we switch that though? If I put that sharp 4 in there, at least there's... Now, I actually skipped over that on this lesson, um, as we'll get to at the end. That is worth pursuing because I believe that could be a doorway into other scale systems, or maybe not systems, but a way to break out of where you will see where we're going to end up when we're done. That's interesting to think about. But anyway, so for B flat, an Aeolian shape will work there, but not the Phrygian shape. There are some shapes that work like that. Now here is the natural B. Sounds major, and that gives it that raised sound again. Might have something to do with Lydian. Could be maybe eliciting a Mixolydian feel. We'll have to give it more thought to be sure. We'll do that in a little bit. So anyways, that works. And if we do change that one to the Aeolian, the raise for it actually once again skips the E, so that might not be one that I use. But if we just keep that one with the Phrygian sound, so if you wonder where all those notes came from, that was that word that slipped out of my mouth there, Phrygian. It made a scale shape, not the mode, but the shape was used to fill in the blanks there, because that one does have a note, does have an E in it. So, but I'll show you how how you can see that for yourself really easily in a second here. Of course, our diagram here is a few, not doing us any favors because it's still back where we were. I didn't continue the diagram up. Finally, if we choose the C, just back before the D there, we got all really congruent against the E. And eliciting a serious sound to me. Awesome. That's where all that modal talk came in, because now I'm starting to think, okay, you know what? There's so many different shapes here that work. I must be jumping around modes. So now the question is, how do I find out which mode? And how can I, is there a way to do that quickly? We're going to see here. So what we're going to kind of do here is we got to get some facts together and build some systems here. So as I said earlier, our arpeggio shape plugs directly into the major scale in two places. That's because two of the chords in a major scale, for example, the key of C, the 1 chord is major, that's a major 7 chord, and the 4 chord is the major 7 chord. The 5 chord is the major with the flatted 7, so that doesn't work here. So that's why this only fits in two places. So disregard any of that key talk here, because this is also needs to be universal in your mind. You slide this anywhere, these patterns will just work, in these keys, and there's ways that people who watch my channel know how to slide this stuff around, and we're going to see that here in a little bit too as we get more details. So these are the shapes. Obviously, the two identical shapes. This is where they plug into the major scale. Now remember earlier when I hinted that they fall inside a pentatonic shape. And we also know that this pentatonic shape occurs 3 times in the major scale to correspond with the 3 minor and the 3 major chords. And in this case, we are only using 2 of those pentatonic shapes. There's one shape that it has commonly called the Dorian shape. What you're looking at here, and why I used the word earlier, is the Phrygian shape. Is this shape P, it's why we called it P, and shape A is the Aeolian shape. For those who know that, they know that because the shape is starting on the 3rd note of a scale, of a major scale, then that's going to give you this. If they say it's going to give you a Phrygian sound, but it's just starting from the third note is really all I that's where I leave that information. This is not you're going to get no mileage trying to get a certain modal sound just from the information you have there that this shape is called that name because it starts on the third note. That's not all, and almost every teacher teaches it that way. I'm sorry to tell you that they leave you to do all the rest of the homework, thinking you've got some amazing thing here by just teaching you a very basic technical aspect because maybe a lot of people haven't really grasped this stuff by the horns. But anyways, I gotta digress from there. Sticking with the lesson here. And it all depends on, I just laid it out for, teachers, but it really all depends on the student. I mean, there's going to be students that all learn from different, anybody can have a light bulb moment at any time. So, it's just like the teaching isn't everything. So anyways, or the method of teaching, I guess, isn't everything. So we have this, we can see the shapes here that this is plugged into. Okay, we went over it. It's Aeolian and Phrygian and not Dorian, because Dorian would have that, you'll see right down here, or I guess up here on the B string. That wouldn't fit in. The Dorian has that. So obviously it's kind of fitting that it technically doesn't work. The major arpeggio, the major 7 arpeggio, only works in those 2 spots, and there is just further concrete information about that. So these are the shapes. Now we can expand any of those ideas. What I did was then I experimented with, when I got one that I liked, when I was maybe here, what sounded good. And all you're really doing is adjusting that 4 we talked about earlier. So to get from between the Phrygian and the Aeolian shape. There's another note attached here on the Aeolian to make it a little more recognizable for anybody. Everybody will get to that in a second. As a matter of fact, I'll change there's all the missing notes now, so you can see exactly where it plugs into a major scale. So for where maybe here. E major. So now we can see that, okay, when I play that shape gets a nice, easy sound to listen to. Doesn't seem to have anything sad about it. And what do you know? Plugs right into E major. Now, if I play that other scale, it still seems to plug in. Do you guys know, just from watching my pentatonic box lessons, how to switch between modes in the pentatonic box? Do you know what mode we just played? If the first one was major, then this is without even hearing. That is the difference. It's not much. But it's enough to make a difference. But for me, I'm still learning to hear that, and it comes more. It's hard to hear when it's mixed in with all these scale notes, especially you got all 3 of the notes that even everything out. You don't pick up on these sounds, but if you play with the arpeggio shapes, some of these sounds will really be able to. You'll be able to say, "Hey, that melody line had a flat 7," and that makes me feel like Rick Beato, because now I know that that's Mixolydian, and is it who? I don't know. I said some name. I don't know. I think he's from the same city I'm in, but I don't know. I have no idea. Anyways, so This is also, you want to kind of think about this. Sometimes if I'm doing some switching, if I'm experimenting, I want to know, maybe I'm in this Aeolian shape A here, and I want to get to I want to find my next arpeggio shape up the fretboard that plugs in directly with it. I want to know how far away it is in this direction, or well, yeah, this direction here. That wherever this one is on your screen here. I want to know how far away, and that's what helps including that extra note here, because you'll notice that when I get to the bottom here, I'm going to just play the shape anywhere. I'm going to play that extra note. Okay, so now if I go a whole step up from there, I'm at the bottom corner of my arpeggio shape where the plus sign is now. Now if I want to go in the same direction up and find that shape again, I'd be at the octave up from where I was. Now as you see, I'm going to have to skip 2 frets to get to that same corner note. So not technically the same corner note, but that same point in the arpeggio shape. So if I had ended up here, I'm going to have to go here. Whoops. Doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of relationship there, but apparently. It's kind of like there's a little bit of talk back between these two different voicings, or chord choices from that scale. Basically the 1 and the 4. Considering the major scale pattern. Okay, so yeah, that's what they would be if you were pulling these right out of a particular scale. This arpeggio by itself would be indicate one of them is this one is indicating the 1 chord. By the way, this is actually important to know, and glad I stumbled onto it, that this shape, the Phrygian shape here, we'll call it shape P, is the 1. This is the 1 chord, because you can see in this box here, we'll see in a second here that we know that where the plus sign is our root note, and it's in the scale. We'll see that in a second. Anyways, that's the 1 chord, and this is the 5 chord. Let's move on to see that. I think I got it here. Yeah. Here, where's the E? Oh, and so now we also want to know. This is also how we'll determine like where, if these must be some kind of modes. What modes are we in? Let's discover that. But before I was showing you that, you can see here how this pattern here, first of all, this actual pattern is the core of the major scale on your fretboard. I know I say that every time, but people are watching this from out of nowhere, and they wonder where this stuff comes from. And a new, someone who's watching say, well, how am I going to memorize that? Then it changes, then it's just this shape and that shape. No. Even though it looks random all over your fretboard, this is the actual shape you're looking at, no matter where you look on your fretboard. If you're looking at scale notes, trying to pick them out of the other notes, this is the shape. And these letters are the modal names. So I for Ionian, D for Dorian. That Dorian, the D note, the note that's there, that's the repeat of the same note. So that's why that's the same. With Phrygian, Lydian, the L there is Locrian. It's differentiated from the same letter with the that's where the Locrian scale starts. Mixolydian, Aeolian. Okay, so we know all that, and this never changes and never moves. The only thing that does move in these squares are the note names. Everything else is the same. The intervals are the same anyways. Okay, well, no, intervals can change depending on what you consider the root. But anyways, so we see that this chord shape starts there on the in the box. In the Phrygian box, the the box is mounted here, the chord is mounted here, the root is in the 1, the Ionian root. So that's the 1 of the scale. And this is the 5 of the scale. If we count 1, 2, the same 2, 3, 4, and 5. M is 5. Mixolydian is the 5 based on the 5 chord of the scale. And so you can see here, if we where our other arpeggio shape is, the box is on basically 1 string higher, and or lower, well, higher to the ceiling, but lower in sound. And because the root is starting on this corner of the box, let's take a look. Lydian, the 4. So that is based on the 4 chord, like we talked about, 1 and 4. So you can think about your Phrygian, kind of associate that with your 1, and then associate this pattern with your 4 chord, perhaps. Aside from all the other, I mean, there's every arpeggio is in there really, but okay, so moving on. So we're talking about this bracket right here. The next thing is figuring out what we actually discovered here. A low E, and this pattern sounds good. It's up on the E here, so and okay, now that makes sense. That whole sound makes sense because there's E is in the 1, and so that's got to be E Ionian, E major. This is all, if I play the arpeggio is E major. That's why the arpeggio sounds good. The rest of the scale sounds good because all those notes tag along with its shape. And our choice of 4 here puts us squarely in E Ionian, because we found where our E is. Why E? Because we're rigging out a low E. E is the system we're in. E is our gravity. E is our tonal center at the moment. When we drone a low note, if I capoed it could be any note, but it's E. Alright, so, or if I tuned the string differently, or if I had a low B string. Anyways, now what if I change that to Aeolian though? Well, if our square goes up, now we're playing on our root note is at the bottom corner of the square, so we just basically toggled in between E Ionian and E Lydian with just 1 note. Now keep in mind those, E Ionian is E major, but E Lydian, that's E is the 4 of another key. So you've basically just changed keys with 1 note, because there are 2 keys that always share 1 note from any other key, and they're based on the 4th and the 5th. Nothing new there. We've gone over that in other lessons. So, but interesting that you can basically do some modal shifting there. You can see if what you're playing over, you can compose a piece that's ambiguous enough that just sounds generally major, but has no 4s in any of the other instruments. So that leaves you, the soloist, to do some toggling magic between both keys. Introduce a key later. I don't know. Maybe use that change in a solo to branch out for the musical piece to go to different chords than it came from. Maybe it came from E major and stays there until it leaves off from E Lydian. Possibilities, right? Compositional possibilities. Okay, all right. So moving on there, we can see that we've got the E over here. So like wherever you were playing your arpeggio, if I was playing it here, and this is how you can also find like the what do you call that? Basically, I don't know, they're sisters. The sister arpeggio to the one you're playing, where the second one plugs in. So if we were down here on the E, does stand to reason that the next one to plug in would be A. So, interestingly enough, so earlier what did we do? We were in E Ionian down here with this arpeggio, and we were able to make it to E Lydian. Now up here we are in E. If I still play that, if I play the A Aeolian there, I am in major, E major, Ionian major. There's no other major. The Ionian and major, same thing. But if I switch it to this Aeolian, or I'm sorry, a Phrygian note, now I've gone to E Mixolydian, a different scale set. So you can then even go, you could toggle, you could come in from E major and toggle to E Mixolydian. We can get into from E major and toggle into Lydian. Basically get to both possible keys very deceptively. You can find your own ways to compose something that either is, using you do something with melody lines that allows you to branch away in a different direction, slightly different direction. They share 6 of their 7 notes, so both keys are pretty correspondent. But anyways, I don't know if borrowed chords sound great. Maybe going traveling somewhere, you'd have to see. I mean, I think if a song went from a tonality to E major to E Mixolydian, it's probably going to sound pretty noticeable. Not jarring, but as a matter of fact, it'd be one of the smoothest transitions. So anyways, moving on down the road here, we've got the final bit here. So this I did the homework for you, but this is what you could have done exploring here. And I just listed them all out. Now, I took away all the dots on the fretboard because I want this to be movable in your mind. This all moves. And I was calling this shape 1P for a while. I'm just going to call it Phrygian from now. I guess we'll just call it shape P. Now I was calling this shape 5 just to remind you that when you're in Aeolian, your arpeggio is based on, if you just kind of fall back to the arpeggio that's on the 5 of whatever scale you've chosen. If you've chosen to work this into, you can, because you don't have to, you can just stay in pentatonic and keep everybody guessing. You could stay in just the 4 notes and keep everybody guessing. So which is why some of these sound elusive when you play them on their own with no other context, because there is a choice of what they actually could still be. There's no telling exactly what mode. There's no definitive modal sound there, but it was still at least minor, because I'm sure you're, compared to the E, there must have been a minor third in there. You could just hear it. And I don't know that for sure, but I would bet on it because I heard it. So, you can see here, basically on shape P, the Phrygian shape, this shows you the parent key. So these are all your shifting keys with all of these. So I can go to, if I want a Dorian sound, an E Dorian sound, I can play this up on, I can use where the letter names here are, that's where that's the note of consideration I'm using. That root note there is what I'm using for these ideas. So example, for Dorian, I've got G and D. So if I take a D and I go ice, ice, What, ice? Oh yeah, modes. Sorry. Okay. I go up to D and I want to play. Cool sound. Not necessarily Dorian yet until I go. Which one do I need a Phrygian shape to do that? Try some chord things. So all that kind of stuff. All available for the low price of $9.95. Um, and if I were to now, oh, here's another one. What if so there was Dorian, pretty cool. Now where can I go from Dorian? Well, let's see. Does the D transfer over to shape A? Yes, if I go to shape A, I'm going to get E Mixolydian. So that's pretty cool. So here we would have this. Sorry. Dorian. Or Mixolydian. The addition to me, I hear this note. Gives it a little happier up-tempo, probably major, and of course we went over earlier that is the major third to E, right? Yeah. Oh no, that's a 4, sorry. Major third. 2. But, oh yeah, here's our scale again, so duh, that was the choice of our major third. With a flatted 7. But if we go minor third with a flatted 7, then yeah, that's more of a E Dorian idea. So there's the scale. And there's a little bit about jumping in between, just with that one note. We showed in how you can even just reference this chart, write it down for yourself, or memorize it, whatever you do. You can see how you can duck in between different sounds. And it's the same amount away. Like, so if I take the E and I toggle it over from shape A to shape P, it's the same distance. What is it, a fourth? Is it the same distance? It should be. It's either a fourth or a fifth because these are all dealing with keys that are a fourth or a fifth away. Now, another thing is a weird thing. A weird thing was that this all came from the key of C. Almost everything that sounded good came from the key of C, but there's a bigger musical wheel there that I haven't been able to get my head around yet. So it's nothing that I think is going to be have any major musical implication. I think it's just a kind of a background coincidence here. The F here has a question mark because if you toggle that one over to the other, you lower the third there to go from Aeolian shape to the P or whatever notes lowering there. It goes to Locrian. You would be playing in Locrian. The B transfers over to something I couldn't figure out. It was kind of useless. We went over it earlier. It was the one that went over the E and sounded probably like it wasn't going to be extremely useful to play it as a put it in the context of the Phrygian shape there, or the P shape. And that's why I just called it shape A, shape P. So that name didn't start confusing everyone when like, wait, I thought these were the modal sounds, not these shapes. And because yeah, these are the sounds you're going to elicit. Um, and there was there's more to experiment with. Like we found that one, the B flat, kind of worked. Yeah, so something going on there, but let's see what that was. So what did I play here? So there's the E, and that is the. We got a flat 2. We got a 7. We got a flat 7. Minor third. The 4. Flat 4. Or sorry, 4. And yeah, I guess we're not playing the 5, so that'd be the flat 5. That's a 4. We got a flat 5, sharp 5, or flatted 6, and then it's a weird scale. Something diminished is going on there. Yeah, I think if you put the that Aeolian note there, that actually also equals. It's probably that's where the Locrian comes from, and if you switch that over, it goes into some weird scale that doesn't have an E in it at all. So I would think that that's going to be used for just some high tension of some kind or other. But you probably would get to these notes of tension by other thought processes, not necessarily that. So I just leave that where it is. So anyways, really cool. I thought the exploring there was really cool. Just how these musical shapes, just to reiterate everything in the lesson, sound really good by themselves and then sound good all over the fretboard compared to a tonal center. So there's interesting the amount of versatility here and the possibilities for weaving in and out of some closely related chords. I was hoping that there was something a little more profound here, but that might come with using the other arpeggios. You can experiment with this using minor arpeggios over all 3 pentatonic shapes and the dominant 7th arpeggio too. See what that can do, because don't you know what the night can do? All right, we're going to leave you with that. Our new 4-note Mind's Eye introduction and closing song there. Thank you for watching. Check out the description below for all the great things that we're offering, because we offer so many great things here at Mind's Eye. We really don't, but we're just saying it. There's a merchandise store down below with a bunch of cool t-shirts. Check out, see if there's something you like, because I make a bunch of different designs, and some of them are Mind's Eye visual guitar related. Check out a cool coffee mug or something to with it's got a kind of some cool shapes. You'll have to check them out. Artsy stuff made by AI. I'll be honest there and say that made by AI, but some changed over a little bit by me. And if you don't do that, you'd like to make more of you would like to contribute for cool knowledge. You'd like, hey, that's worth $1 thrown at this guy. There's a tip jar, which is called Buy Me a Coffee, because I need coffee. So buy me a coffee down below. People are doing that, and I appreciate you guys are the best. And like and subscribe, I think was the last thing I'm supposed to say. So thank you very much for watching. Enjoy yourselves. Till the next time. Mind's Eye Visual Guitar.